Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another session of Buddhist Cafe. So today we have with us again Ishita and Arunima, and we're going to talk about the application process. So welcome, Arunima and Ishita. Would you like to introduce yourself? Ishita, would you like to go first?
जिन भी बच्चों को मैराथन में पार्टिसिपेट करना है या वॉलंटियर बनना है उसको अभी आके अपना नाम सर्टिफिकेट भी
Am I
दिखाओ
audible, guys?
वॉलंटियर और
All right,
पार्टिसिपेट
so
Yeah, I
में
can.
सर्टिफिकेट मिलेगा
Okay. So could you guys introduce yourself?
yeah, so hi everyone. Myself Ishita Bisaria. I'm currently pursuing BTech CSE from Vanasili Vidyapeeth. I'm in my pre-final year and I have been a step intern 2022 and I will be a SWE intern at Google in 2023.
Great. Arunima, would you like to go next?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah,
you're
I
audible.
think I just lost the connection.
no worries.
Yeah, so myself, Arunima Barik, I'm a third year CSC student from Nirma University, Ahmedabad, and I was a Google step intern this year, last year, 2022.
Great. Thank you, Shita and Arunima, for your lovely intros. So we have already have a session with the both of you regarding the application process. So now let's focus more on the interview process. So let's begin. All right. So let's begin with the on-campus process. Shita, would you like to go on first with this?
Yeah, yeah. So like on campus, it like before previous years, it was just a resume selection round and two interviews. But this time, it is also like one coding contest is also included. So as far as I've heard, like it's like in 60 minutes you have to solve two coding questions, and after that you will be shortlisted for the interviews. And then there are two technical interview rounds in which you will be asked DSA. So yeah, that was the process, and after that you can get the selection mail.
Great. Let's move on to the off-campus process. Arunima, could you put light on this?
Yeah, so I applied for the same off campus and that too through a referral. So my first round was a telephonic round, and after that I had two technical rounds, as Ishita mentioned. And telephonic rounds are generally optional. They are for those who apply via a referral. Those who do not apply via a referral, they generally do not have the telephonic round. We only have the interviews, and there are a gap of about 2 to 3 weeks between both the rounds, like the telephonic round and the interviews. And interviews can be two on one day or one on two consecutive days, like that.
Okay. Now let's move on to the important topics. So, Ashita, could you describe what are some of the important topics that one should prepare?
Yeah, so like some of the important topics, as you can see, there are arrays, linked list, number theory, graphs, trees, and DP. One very important topic that I feel is graphs because last year, as far as I've experienced, almost everyone who told me their interview experience, they were asked one graph question. So I guess that is one of the very important topics. So prepare graphs nicely.
Okay, great. Let's move on to important resources. Arunima, could you explain this part?
Yeah, coming on to the important resources. So these are something that me and all my friends used for the preparation for the interviews. So lead code and code forces are for the contests that you can give, and you can solve a lot of easy to medium level questions on lead code for the level of the interviews. Striver SD sheet is a very well curated resource. It has good number of questions from each topic, the topics that we mentioned before, as Ishita mentioned, and it also contains some questions which are mostly asked by the interviewers. So it's a very good resource that I found. And lastly is the GFG company tagged question. So you can tag Google over there, and you can like solve the questions that have been asked by Google in the previous years. So they can be a great help for you to get selected in the upcoming interviews.
Great. Yeah. All right. So let's just begin with the experience as a step and turn. So, Shita, would you like to explain and elaborate upon your experience, the interview process
Yeah,
that you
so
personally experienced? Yeah. And
yeah,
the
so
step and turn.
like I applied off campus for this opportunity, and at that time I was not knowing about the referral thing, so I applied without the referral. And then, like as Arunima mentioned, the people whose resumes are selected without referral, they are not having any telephonic interview round. So I just had two coding interviews, and after that I got I got my selection mail after I got my resume selection mail after 1.5 months after I applied, and then I got the selection mail out after 1 week after my second interview. And yeah, experience as a step intern has been phenomenal. So the best thing that I experienced or I learned is that whenever you're developing something, I guess organizing that and working in a corporate world, it's been very awesome.
That's great. Arunima, would you like to share your experience?
Yeah, sure. So, elaborating on what Ishita said, I also applied off campus as I told. So, I had the telephonic round, which was more on oral DSA questions. We had some questions on sorting, searching, time complexity, and STL containers like that. So, telephonic round was pretty easy. It was 15 to 20 minutes telephonic round. And after that, we had two coding rounds. I had two rounds, one on a day, 2 consecutive days, and the questions were good, and the interview level was like easy medium, I would say. And I got the offer after, I guess, 2 days. So the interview process was great, and after that, when I joined as a step intern, the experience was on a different level, because this is something that is very different from what we do in our colleges, college projects, or some personal projects that we do. So my project was a very design intensive and implementation intensive project. So I worked on both the areas, 50-50 types. And it was great because you have to read a lot of code so that you come to know about what your department is doing and what you are supposed to do as a part of the project. So reading a lot of code, understanding what each function, what each file does, whatever is being done or whatever has been implemented, and how you can reuse that so that you do not have to come up with a very different thing and complicate stuff, is a big learning process. So I had to read a lot of code for that. I also had to make design docs and all to demonstrate the implementation design process that I had in my mind. So it was a great learning experience, and networking with fellow step interns, other Googlers, participating in their events, everything was a wholesome experience. So I really enjoyed it, and it was one of a kind.
Great. That's really awesome. Okay. Let's move on to the Q&A round. So, guys, if you have any doubts, any questions, you could post on in the chat box. All right. So, we have first question with us that application form is still open for this internship.
No, like right now they are not open for the next year, so yeah, the deadline is up for it.
All right. Okay. Do we have any more questions? Okay. There's another question. How did you prepare for the technical assessment?
Yeah, so I can say that as we mentioned about the resources. So I personally did a lot of lead coding during those days. I solved variety of questions of different like easy, medium level from lead code. I also tried to give the lead code contests, up solving the previous contests. And in other times, I have been doing CP on code forces, so that also helped me during the technical rounds.
All right. Could you focus like what questions are important, like which concepts we already covered which concepts are important, but like if we talk about trees, graphs, or DP? Like, what are the probable questions that generally are being asked?
I guess if we talk about graphs or trees, BFS and DFS are two algorithms that are very important. So I guess practicing some questions over the same over BFS and DFS would really help. And for the others too, like if you say arrays, then it's a wide variety. So maybe practicing some questions on sorting thing will help a lot. Like so many questions are asked on that thing.
Yeah, and I would also like to add like time complexities and space
Yes.
complexities that
Yeah,
are
like
very
yeah, so like they ask whenever you provide a brute force, then they ask how to optimize it, then again to optimize it. So yeah, time complexity and space complexity plays a major role.
yeah. Similarly, if you ask a DP question, it's very important to start with the brute force, like at least tell the approach of recursion with its time complexity, and then move on to optimizing it.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
let's move on to the next question. And how did your resume look like when you applied? All right.
On Yeah, so like I just had some code chef ratings over my like in my achievement section on my resume, and the number of questions that I did on Lead Code and Geeks for Geeks as per that time. And in my achievements, yeah, that was the major thing. And I had two projects, very basic ones using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript only. So yeah, that was it. And my education qualifications, CGP, and all up till third semester. So yeah, that was all.
So I
Yeah,
would
and
like to help.
yeah, if
Yeah.
I would like to add about my resume, I also had my code forces and code shift ratings, and I did not solve much in GFG, so I had my lead code number of questions solved, and I mentioned the ranks I got in few of the CF contests and code shift contest. One thing that I mentioned was about Google Kickstart ranks because I'd been giving those contests, and I also mentioned about Google Code Jam. I also gave that contest. The ranks were not very good, like they were in thousands, but I still mentioned that. And I had the college curriculum projects that I did on my resume, and my education and CPI and all that normal things.
Great. So yeah, so there are many people asking about that the projects that we have to learn about like extraordinary technologies, moon stack and everything. So yeah, that is not
Um,
really necessary. Yeah.
No, and another
yes,
thing is like you apply when you are in the second year, so you are not expected to know such hi-fi things at such a early year of the college. Something simple like HTML, CSS, or if you go with some basic data analysis, or even the college curriculum projects too. So nothing hi-fi required.
Yeah.
yeah, so like you aren't asked any questions on that. It's just like if you're applying to something, your resume should look nice. And for that, including projects would really help. So I guess having only one project and that two basic ones is just enough for that. Prepare DSA nicely.
And give contests. The ratings do play an important role.
Right.
Okay. So we have next question. For the non-technical assessment, what kind of questions were asked by the phone interviewer?
For that, like as far as I know, that in the telephonic round, they were just asking about time complexity. For example, a very famous question was, what are the implementation of priority queue in STL? So if you are using C++, then you're using priority queue, then what it is. So yeah, something like that. Just theory questions, time complexity and space complexity related.
The basic fundamentals,
Yeah.
basically. All right. Approximately how many days prior to the assessment do we receive the email?
Um, uh, if you're talking about the coding interview or like after, like it is not clear.
I guess it means that like when you apply for the assessment, like let's say you have a coding assessment or a phone interview round, then how many days after that do you receive the interview invite?
Okay, so previously it was like they just sent a mail after the resume selection, and then after that, in that mail they mention that you're going to face two interviews, two technical interviews, and if you have applied through referral, then they will be conducting a telephonic round, and that has no date mentioned. So like, yeah, after you get the resume selection mail, in 1 or 2 weeks your interviews will be conducted.
Okay. And what prior experience do you have before applying?
As a work experience, like, yeah, I was not having any work experience in my third semester, so I just mentioned the open source work that I did in my work experience section. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
was part of a few online internship projects, programs, sorry, so I mentioned those.
Yeah. So you could mention your just like Ishita and Arunima described about your online internships or anything you have, or you could also tell about your societies if you are part of any the college societies and all. All right. Can you please ask any question as an example which was asked in the interview? Okay, so I think he means that if you could give an example of any question that was asked in the interview.
Yeah, I would say the question pattern is very similar to that found on lead code. So there is a problem statement sort of thing, a story like thing, and you have a sample input and output that is given. And if you want more clarifications, the interviewer can explain you the dry running of the input and then how the output is coming. And after that, you can code it up.
Yeah. Okay. What languages does the interviewer want you to answer the technical assessment in?
It can be like, it should be C plus plus or Java, but they never say like, okay, you're bound to only these two languages, but it should be C plus plus or Java only. Like if you're doing DSA, consider these two languages other than any.
Yeah. How do we know if about a resume got selected or not?
You will get a resume selection mail for that. Time is not defined. You can get in 2 weeks, you can get in 1 month also, but you will get a mail for sure.
Okay. Has anyone received the resume selection email yet? I think on campus people have started receiving it, but for off campus we are not sure yet, right?
Yeah, like North Campus right now, they haven't rolled out.
Okay. And when can we expect notification regarding selection?
As I said that, there is no time defined. It can be 2 weeks, it can be 1 week, it can be 1 month also. They are rolling in batches every year, so it is not defined.
Yeah. So wait patiently and keep up your prep. Have you guys applied for Google Computer Science Research Program mentorship?
No, I have not applied.
Yeah, same goes for me. I haven't.
Okay. Uh, okay, so I've listened before from many seniors that step intern is only for girls. Is it true?
Um, Till the previous years, it was for both, but it was more focused towards girls and underrepresented sections. This year, I heard that it is for both, and many males also applied to this. So I guess everyone should apply. Maybe.
Yeah, even I heard that it's available, like it's open to both. All right. So, do we have any more questions, guys? Okay, so we will take up more sessions regarding more such programs like Amazon Wow or any more program later. But the section is like focused for Google Step. Yeah. Okay, is Step intern mainly for underclassmen or can juniors and seniors also apply?
Yeah, it's not for juniors and seniors. It's for second year students in India as per now.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So since we have no more questions, let's wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining in. And yeah, do subscribe to Coders Cafe for more such amazing and informative sessions. Thank you again.